What's going on, everyone? It's Blandon here from Elite 4 TV, and today we are going to go over KevKillerke Dortmund's Open Qualifier. So he is the #1 player in Belgium, currently ranked number 30, and an impressive 85% win ratio. You can see some of his trophies, a lot of gold medals there, and here I was hesitant to actually show you guys this tournament, but looking at some of the winners in the recent tournaments, Wigglytuff has not been as good as we thought. A lot of players are winning without Wiggly on their roster, so I believe some of the strategies in this video are going to be very helpful and are still going to be applicable with the upcoming Jungle Cups that you guys are going to attend. So this Open Qualifier, Nemo Stormblood has won, which you guys have probably seen on King's channel. Now Kev actually came second, along with Raging Taz, and a few missed out the Worlds. Raging Taz is actually the European champion. And we have some stiff competition in this cup because you can see there are several ace players and they are very high ranked, as well as very competitive players like Mardul Gould, Cloyce SGC, Nemo Stormblood, as well as you can see Zionic was actually attending this cup as well. Shout out to Zionic. And I actually talk to Kev on a daily basis, and often we sort of bounce ideas off each other, and he's contributing quite a bit to the spreadsheet that you guys see on a monthly basis. So naturally he has sort of become a part of the EFTV family. Before he went to this cup, we actually discussed one simple strategy, and ValorAsh used a very similar strategy at the Philadelphia Cup as well. Now there are two important things to note about this strategy, and that is, I'm just going to open up my team to show you guys the two things that makes this strategy work. One is switch advantage, and two, perfect coverage. So let me share this with you before we dive into the matches. Now with this cup, we all know Vigoroth is the king of the jungle, and what that basically means, with piggyback and 2 shields, Vigoroth has by far the most positive matchup. Now if you invested 2 shield on Vigoroth, what that basically means is that you can gain switch advantage over your opponent, meaning you get to see their second Pokemon first. If you feint the first one and you see the second one, what you're going to be able to do is put in the perfect counter. And so to take advantage of this, you need to have 2 Pokemon at the back that has near perfect coverage. So I have actually outlined several of these perfect coverage pairs in my previous team building video. Now ideally, the pair should have hyper positive matchup. What I mean is that when they win by a massive margin. And so things that can win with just fast moves, you know, something like Confusion, in this case Graveler with Rock Throw, that is very potent win against the flyers and the bugs. So even if you have your shields down, you can take out pretty much any bug in this cup with no shields. So that is very important. Graveler and also Venusaur. Venusaur with Frenzy Plant puts on a ton of shield pressure. Something like Lantern or Graveler is just gonna fold against a Venusaur. So very important pair is the Graveler and Venusaur. Now this pair, it is very vulnerable to 2 particular Pokemon, and that is Heracross as well as a Forestress with shields, because a Forestress with shields and a little bit of energy advantage is actually able to take out the Graveler. So it's very important that you can sort of steer away the Forestress. So what actually helped KevKillerke's team is that he has Heracross and Noctowl to scare away the Forestress. By having those guys, it actually scares off the Forestress. And the second thing that you can scare off is the Heracross as well. As you can see, Vespiquen and Noctowl, it's gonna be able to sort of scare off that Heracross. So without further ado, let's get into the matches. Now what I want you guys to pay attention to is how he has utilized the strategy, try to gain switch advantage, and then using the perfect coverage in the back. A lot of the time he actually just lead with the right lead, and that will be enough to win the match because he's got a perfect coverage in the back and then a Vigoroth to finish off. So let's get into it. So in the first match, Kev is up against Zero Requiem. Very interesting lineup here. You can see Execute and Raiko in the second electric slot. Now it is very vulnerable to Vigoroth. As you can see, there's only Venusaur as a hard counter, but with Vigoroth a bit of energy advantage and shields, it could potentially sweep this whole team. So let's hear how Kev plays this out. So round 1, Kev decides to lead with the Vigoroth. And the important thing here is to win switch advantage. So against Execute, we're pretty good. We're going to be able to spam those body slam. Kev is going straight for 2 body slam in a row. If you've seen King's video, doing 2 body slam in a row is the same as a piggyback. But here Kev is able to actually body slam straight after the seed bomb. And then second body slam goes off as well. Effectively, that is 2 piggyback in a row. It's going to be pretty tough for our opponent to win this matchup unless it decides to double shield. So Kev lets that seed bomb go and goes for 1 more body slam, and the Execute decides to shield to keep the switch advantage, which was the right thing to do, because now Kev is put in a tough spot, because whatever he puts out, it might have been better if he went for the Venusaur and just take that seed bomb, but here he has to switch out to Venusaur. It makes sense. And then now this Noctowl is going to be finishing off this Venusaur. I think the best thing for that Noctowl to do there was actually to farm another charge attack. Now with 50% health, this Graveler is going to be able to farm a ton of energy, and it allows Kev to have an opportunity to try and finish this Vigoroth off. But unfortunately, this Vigoroth has loaded up on tons of energy and is able to get that bulldoze for the win. So that's GG round 1. So round 2, Kev decides to go Vigoroth again for the lead. It's one of the safest lead unless our opponents decides to lead with Venusaur there. Winning the lead makes things a lot easier. So here body slam is going to do a ton of damage, but Venusaur decides to shield. And then Venusaur comes out for the mirror match. So Kev is able to go for the Sludge Bomb. And because our opponent here is actually running a Razor Leaf Venusaur, it's unable to catch up to Kev's energy advantage. So Kev is able to get 2 Sludge Bombs. So that Venusaur is a perfect counter for their Venusaur. And then now it's going to be able to just one-shot this Golem. And Vigoroth is going to come out to take a Frenzy Plant as well. So there's no under-tapping here. So this is pretty much GG for our opponent. And Vigoroth comes out and we're going to shield and we're going to finish it off with counters. And that's GG round 2. So in the final round, Kev decides to run the exact same lineup, leading with Vigoroth, and our opponent switches to Noctowl. It's still a positive matchup for Kev, and here the best thing for the Noctowl to do is actually get the Sky Attack and then switch. But our opponent decides to stay in to take the Body Slam, and Kev was able to piggyback one more time there, and our opponent decides to shield, and it was a very, very good count from Kev's side. He got that body slam just before the opponent got the Sky Attack, and with the body slam we're able to finish the Noctowl. Our opponent is up 1 shield, but Kev does have the switch advantage, and this Vigoroth is going to be able to get a body slam off. The best thing for our opponent to do here is probably just finishing this Vigoroth with 1 more counter. But knowing our opponent is rival, he probably hasn't learned how to count fast moves yet. Something he might have to sort of look into. And because shields are down, Sludge Bomb is able to finish off the execute, even though it was a negative matchup for Venusaur. GG round 3, Venusaur for the sweep. So in round 2, we're up against Arcanine Flare 35, and what's really interesting about this lineup is that we have Beedrill and Scizor, we got Sceptile, and these three are all weak against the Noctowl. So Noctowl becoming a very positive matchup against this line. So the perfect coverage, the duel that Kev is going to play here should be Venusaur and Noctowl, because Noctowl is only weak against the Vigoroth and the Lantern, and the Venusaur is going to be able to cover for both of those. So let's see how Kev plays this out. So round number 1 against Arcanine, we are leading with Noctowl. So let's see how we do here. We're up against Beedrill, so a positive match out for Kev, and it's very likely our opponent is going to switch out. So it's pretty much charged up in Scizor, and our opponent decides to switch out to Lantern, and unfortunate for our opponent, Kev bought his Venusaur, and it's going to be able to just take out this Lantern pretty quickly. So Hydro Pump, great, and Kev decides to farm extra Frenzy Plant there, and because our opponents decides to shield, Kev is able to just burn our opponent's shield by doing 2 Frenzy Plants in a row. And so Aerial Ace takes out Venusaur, but because we have Noctowl, we're going to be able to just farm up this Beedrill, but Kev is not going to play around with this Beedrill, decides to go for the Sky Attack, and it does take a shield off our opponent. Opponent decides to go Sludge Bomb. If it was a Scizor, maybe there could be a bit more damage, but I don't think it would have finished the Noctowl. So this is pretty much GG, because Kev is still up a shield, and it's able to shield this Body Slam, and he's able to finish it off, and it's GG round 1. So very well played. You can see the perfect duel working out there, but winning the lead was very important as well. So round 2, we got Noctowl against Noctowl, the mirror match. So let's see how this plays out. Who is going to give in on the piggyback first? So our opponent decides to go for the Sky Attack, and it allows Kev to go for the piggyback. And what's important in the mirror match is patience, you know, not only patience, but also knowing how many fast move are going to get you to 100 energy. So here Kev is able to go for the second Sky Attack. Our opponent decides to mirror the shield, but unfortunately for him, because Kev has got a slight energy advantage and is able to go for the third Sky Attack. Now Kev is able to maintain switch advantage, but he decides to switch Vigoroth out, because knowing that Vigoroth is going to come out, he wants to make sure that Vigoroth is not going to have a massive energy advantage over him. I think our opponent here probably just did a fast switch without thinking, because the Lantern, it's a negative matchup against Vigoroth. So Vigoroth is able to finish it off relatively quick and easily. And so Vigoroth comes back out with the Body Slam. Kev is able to get one more Body Slam off with this Vigoroth, forcing a shield. And Kev here, I wasn't too sure why he switched out the Noctowl for free energy, because now our opponent is actually able to get off 2 Body Slam if he wants, but instead he went for Bulldoze, so pretty tough. And that allows Kev to finish it off with a Frenzy Plant, and that's GG round 2. In the third round, we're up against a Healage, and we can see that our opponent doesn't really like Vigoroth. It's bringing both Vespiquen and Venomoth. So it's very, very important in this matchup for Kev to keep the Graveler alive for as long as possible, because the Vespiquen could potentially sweep most of what Kev has. So let's see how Kev plays this out. So Kev decides to lead with Venusaur and bringing Noctowl in the back. So he has 2 lives against the bugs. It makes a lot of sense. So he's got the Graveler and the Noctowl to deal with the bugs. Here, Kev predicted correctly and leads with Venusaur. Our opponent is forced to switch the Noctowl out, and that is very good for Kev here. He's able to farm a ton of energy on this Noctowl. This Noctowl decides to go for the Sky Attacks, and so it enables Kev to just throw a Thunderbolt before it dies. So here it makes sense for Kev to probably bring out the Venusaur. It's pretty close to a Frenzy Plant. Kev decides to shield here to conserve the health for the Venusaur, because he knows the Noctowl is not going to do much against the Lantern. So it's crucial for Kev to conserve as much health as possible on the Venusaur, knowing that the Noctowl is not going to do anything on the last Pokemon. So here he decides to just let the Noctowl come out so that the Lantern is forced to use his energy. The right thing would have been to actually do half a Thunderbolt there so that he could actually farm more energy on this Noctowl. So now Kev is actually able to get this Frenzy Plant off to finish it off. So good play there by Kev to let that Noctowl come out. Our opponent, could have used half a Thunderbolt to just farm a bit more energy. So in round 2, we have the correct prediction. We start off with Graveler hitting one of the bugs, which make a lot of sense. And so now here we switch into Venusaur. And so Kev decides to probably piggyback on the second Body Slam, which makes sense. Our opponent decides to shield. So here is very important to get that Frenzy Plant off. So luckily, our opponent here is actually trying to farm this Venusaur. So very, very smart play from our opponent. He's able to count all the fast moves. So Kev decides to forego the last shield to keep switch advantage here, which was very, very important and crucial. Even though it's got a smidgen of health, Kev prefers the switch advantage, and unfortunately it's a bug there, and because our opponent has Venusaur in the back, it's not going to be able to take out this Noctowl. The Noctowl is going to be able to farm a ton of energy. So he's not even going to play around, he's going to finish it off with the Sky Attack. And the Vesper Queen comes out to take the last Sky Attack. And that's pretty much GG. So 4th round, we're up against Toby Flask with the double Electric, Lantern and Graveler. The duel that won the Philadelphia Cup. It's a very balanced team, and for Kev, he actually has perfect coverage using Graveler and Venusaur. So as long as he can win the switch advantage, then he could potentially win comfortably. So let's see how this plays out. So round 1, we leading with Venusaur and Vigoroth being the safe switch in the back. So now he has to switch into Vigoroth. It's a negative for Vigoroth, but he has to play this out. So he's going to shield the first Poison Fang, and he's going to use the Body Slam here. Makes sense. And he's saving the second Body Slam so that he can piggyback. So he's going to double shield, opt to double shield here. And for some reason, we are going for the Bulldoze. Our opponent decides to shield. So maybe it was a misplay, or maybe it was a Hail Mary Bulldoze, but here Kev is it's going to be pretty uphill battle for him. Our opponent could actually switch there, and he decides to switch into Lantern. Kev needs to switch into Venusaur straight away, but I think it was a tad late, just a tad late. So I wasn't too sure why Kev decided to, you know, stay in with the Graveler when he has the perfect counter there. And this Venomoth is going to be able to come out to get off a Poison Fang. I think what Kev was trying to do was just to get that Lantern down to a smidgen of health so that the Venusaur can just finish it off with fast moves. But here it's pretty much GG for Kev. So I think a couple of misplays there, but yeah, like let's see how this one plays out. So he wins the lead here with the Venusaur against the Lantern. It forces our opponent to switch into a Noctowl, and then Graveler comes out. Is going to be a hyper positive matchup for Graveler. It's going to be able to farm tons of energy. Our opponent decides to not go for the Nightshade or the Psychic and decides to go for a Sky Attack. It's able to get off a second Sky Attack, but the combined damage is nowhere near as much as a Psychic. So this enables Kev to farm up a Stone Edge. And here this Lantern is going to just farm this Graveler for tons of energy. It's got a Thunderbolt pretty much ready to go, and out comes a good switch by our opponent, by the way, and Venomoth comes out. So that's a positive matchup for Venomoth. It's going to be able to go for a Poison Fang here. Maybe Silverwind would have done more damage, but Vigoroth is able to go for the Body Slam, and our opponent is able to piggyback off Kev, going for the Poison Fang, and it's a very, very tight match. So here, Kev is able to get off one more Body Slam to finish off this Venomoth. It's still got one shield, is one shield up. And here is pretty much GG because our opponent was unable to, you know, take the last shield off Kev. So well played there, good round 2. Now in the third round, Kev decides to lead with the Graveler, and again with the Vigoroth as safe switch. So prediction is correct, we are facing the Flyer, Vigoroth comes out. It makes sense for Kev to go for the Venusaur, so the animation there sort of slowed down Kev to get that Venusaur out early. So it's very, very important when you have a slower fast move that you wait for the animation to finish before you press the switch button, otherwise you're going to be taking a bit of damage, just like Kev did in there. So Kev is able to go for the Frenzy Plant here. Opponents goes for the shield, and it makes a lot of sense because the switch was a little bit slow. Now our opponent is able to gain switch advantage by sacrificing 2 shields. So what do our opponent have at the back? It looks like our opponent don't have a hard counter for Vigoroth, and the switch advantage is not going to be, you know, helping them very much. So very important, guys. Again, if you are going for switch advantage, you have to have perfect coverage in the back. In our opponent's situation here, he doesn't have. Let's see what's in the back. So very interesting, our opponent actually has Venomoth in the back, so I believe is probably a misplay on his part. So GG round 3. So in round 5 we're up against Parko 932 and Lantern Golem. Again we're up against Double Electric with ValorAsh elected as the bug. Very interesting. So Alolan Graveler is not looking so hot against this team, but Vigoroth only has one hard counter, which is the Venusaur, and then also Heracross is only worried about the Noctowl. So looking good for double counter, but let's see how Kev decides to play this match. So Kev does decide to go Venusaur Graveler here with Vigoroth elected as the safe switch, and against Noctowl we have to switch to Vigoroth straight away. So opponent decides to switch out Vigoroth, and to me I think Vigoroth is not a good switch into Vigoroth. Like, I'll switch anything else but Vigoroth into a Vigoroth, because you're basically, you know, sacrificing your own Vigoroth, and you're going to lose the switch advantage because you're going to lose the battle. Just like here, you can see our opponent actually just let go of that Vigoroth, and Kev is able to farm a ton of energy there, and it's able to probably get off. Nope, decides to let it go. It's done its job. You've got the switch advantage, and Venusaur comes out. Our opponent is forced to switch into Knockdown, and because we have the perfect coverage in the back, Graveler doing its job, doing the rock throws, takes the Psychic. It's more than 50% off Graveler's health. As you can see, it's actually a decent amount of damage. So Graveler is able to get off one Stone Edge. It's going to force our opponent to shield, and opponent's going to be able to use Water Gun to finish off the Graveler. And now because Kev still has one shield, there's just no way our opponent is able to come back. So you can see that crucial point was when our opponents decide to switch the Vigoroth into Vigoroth. It was basically a free Pokemon. Like, you get the switch advantage and it's, free energy. So something to consider. So again, we lead Venusaur, and our opponents decides to, lead Vigoroth, and it's going to be a positive matchup for Kev. So he's going for the first Frenzy Plant. It was a piggyback. So here he's going to shield the second Body Slam, which makes a lot of sense. Opponent does a perfect switch there into Venusaur, knowing that Kev is always piggybacking. So he's able to just tank that Frenzy Plant like it was no damage. So Kev decides to go for the shield bait and goes for the Frenzy Plant there. Our opponent is able to shield bait him. Well, actually, he doesn't need to do anything else. So he's able to go for the Sludge Bomb here with a smidgen of health. So Kev is able to maintain switch advantage by sacrificing the 2 shield. Luckily, he had the slight energy advantage there. That's why he was able to pull that off. So it's going to be pretty tough for our opponent to come back from this. Here, it's just counters away, and the last Body Slam on the Noctowl. Kev could have undertapped there, but he probably needs to watch King's video. So GG round 2 there. So round 6, we're up against a German. His name is, it looks like Schnitzel, but Jin Hitso. Hopefully I didn't butcher that. Very interesting line. We got Heracross, Forretress, and Lantern. And for Kev, Heracross is actually looking very positive against that line. If you can bait out the Noctowl and get that out of the way, the Heracross can actually win all one shield scenarios. So let's see how Kev plays this team. So round 1, Kev decides to lead with Venusaur, and we have the lead advantage here. So Kev is able to switch into Vigoroth. I think again, this is just a move that I would not do. I would have just rather keep the Venusaur out than throw a Vigoroth into this Vigoroth. But interesting here, our opponent decides to go for Brick and pulls a shield from Kevin. Very interesting. Our opponent forgoes switch advantage and rather keeps 2 shields, but it's going to be a big mistake because Kev has got perfect coverage in the back, and it is not worried about what the 2 shields are able to do. So here our opponent's going to be able to go for Thunderbolt. It's pretty close to a second one. Our opponent switches to Noctowl, and Graveler does not need any shields to beat this Noctowl. So that's something we discussed in the beginning of this video. It's very, very important for our opponent, to have switch advantage against a team that has perfect coverage in the back. So here, Kev is going to be able to pull a shield out of the Lantern. The Lantern might be close to a second Thunderbolt, but it looks like Kev is just able to finish it off with Vine Whip before that Thunderbolt comes, and that's GG round 1. So here we go, round 2. We have Venusaur lead again, and our opponent has the switch advantage this time. So this time we're going to switch out Vigoroth, and our opponent decides to stay in with the knockdown to force a shield, which makes a lot of sense. Now the opponent is likely going to switch. No, he decides to stay out to take a body slam, and then now Vigoroth comes out, which makes a lot of sense as well. So now it's sort of basically they're both even, and it would probably force a shield here. So opponents decides to shield, and what is Kev gonna do here? He's gonna let that brick through, and so Venusaur comes out. It's still got one shield. It's gonna have to take this body slam. So very interesting. With the brick, it's actually a good shield bait in the mirror match, so it makes a lot of sense. Here, Kev is going to let a sludge bomb go first to do a bit of damage before he switch out to the Graveler, which makes sense. Now it's got no shields. Our opponent is going to come out with the Lantern, and yeah, I think Stone Edge would have done more damage there, but Kev decides to go for the Thunderbolt. A little bit of lag there, but I don't think it would have made a difference. That Lantern was going to go down. So Kev's going to shield this last Sky Attack and finish off Rock Throw. GG round 2. So in the final round, Kev is up against Nemo Stormblood, and this is 120 people watching, and King is actually there shouting, saying, hey, you know, whoever wins this, we're going to feature them on the channel. And someone actually shouted saying, hey, why not shoutcast their tournament? So there's a ton of pressure. I can just imagine how hard it is for Kev, you know, especially if you haven't been used to going to big tournaments. This could be, you know, a ton of pressure. So let's see how Kev plays this out. So Kev decides to go for the same line that's helped him win all the rounds up till now. And we start off with Vesperqueen as the lead. It's going to be very tough, and it's going to be an uphill battle because Kev decides to swap out the Graveler. And this is the worst thing he can swap out because now he has Venusaur and Vigoroth, who will both lose to the Vesperqueen. So it's going to be an uphill battle here. It's going to make more sense for him to let the Venusaur come out. And Venusaur is going to take this body slam. So here, Nemo's already on 2 body slams. It's going to be pretty tough for Kev. So a 3rd body slam. So Kev decides to shield to at least force a shield from Nemo, but I don't think Nemo's gonna shield here. It makes a lot of sense. So Vesperqueen comes out with 1 shield and a bit of energy. It's going to be pretty tough for this Vigoroth to come back. So it's very much GG. So out comes another X-Scissor. The better play there, perhaps if Kev, you know, sacrificed the Vigoroth instead to the Vesperqueen. But here, Lantern is gonna be able to just finish it off with Water Gun. And it's okay. We've got 2 body slam, but Vesperqueen's gonna come back out to finish it off. So that's GG round 1. So round 2, there's tons of pressure. Like, again, you know, give you a bit of context. Kev told me how much people there were, and here he is thinking about it, and he decides to switch to Graveler, and he knew he made a mistake, and it was pretty much over because Nemo ran the exact same lineup through the whole tournament. If you guys haven't seen King's video, Lantern, Vesperqueen, Vigoroth, the only way you could beat this line is if you sacrifice something that would bait out the Vesperqueen. So if you lead with Graveler, and then if it wasn't the right matchup, you let out your Heracross, which will basically take out the Lantern 1 shield and the Vigoroth 1 shield. So the only thing that can come out is Vesper Queen. And then once the Vesper Queen is down, you'll be able to sweep the Lantern and the Vigoroth with the Venusaur. So I think the counter line to Nemo's team is actually to run Heracross, Venusaur, and Graveler. But here, it's an uphill battle for our friend Kev here. It's pretty much over. But nevertheless, Kev did really well. 6-1 on such a big tournament. Congrats. So hopefully you guys enjoy that and learn something. The two key lessons again is to have switch advantage and then have the perfect coverage in the back. You're going to be able to see this strategy throughout all kinds of tournament. And I'm going to have a couple more videos coming out for you guys in the next couple of weeks. So 2 more strategy. One is going to be actually one of another ace trainer. You guys are going to be able to see this. He's from Argentina. I'm excited to show you guys that. And then I want to show you guys a sack swapping strategy in Jungle Cup as well. So hopefully if you enjoy that, please like and subscribe, and do check out our Patreon page down there, and then check out the team building video if you haven't, because you're going to be able to see how you can find teams that has perfect coverage for this cup. So until next time, see you guys again and enjoy.